listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Well, this is a special treat. I've got 3 kitties in here with me right now that I don't usually get to record with. It's Oscar and the 2 kittens. In fact, I sometimes call these guys the 3 amigos. They go everywhere together. They are such BFFs. Oscar's he's the guy that I trapped on the neighbor's property. He's the one that loves Harvey. Remember, he was super feral. I could never even touch him, but he was loving on Harvey like it was his best friend. And then he had to have that hip surgery, and he came back even friendlier than he was already getting to be. But he's best friends with these 2 other kittens, the ones that I also trapped on the neighbor's property last year, but they were barely 5 weeks old. Oscar was more of a juvenile, but these guys were just barely old enough to be away from their mom. And they go everywhere together. They're so cool. Anyway, I think I know what their names are. We know Oscar for sure. I'm still feeling out the names on the other 2. Obviously, I'm keeping them if I'm feeling out their names. Okay, so I wanted to talk about something today about, this topic comes up on occasion. It's when we give up our power. You know, there are a variety of occasions where we might be tempted to turn over, to abdicate our creative power without even realizing that we're doing it. Like, even conscious creators do this sometimes. When we believe someone who holds some sort of authority or credibility, when they declare something other than what we want, and we believe them, like we kind of turn the reins over to them, it can happen. Like when the psychic or the astrologer or the card reader says they have some sort of insight into you, or they know what your future holds, and we believe them. Or when your doctor or nutritionist or trainer, when they hand down a diagnosis or tell you what's required in order to heal, or how long it'll take, or even if it's possible, and we believe them, or even when your coach or your mentor, when they tell you what actions are required in order to get the results you want. This happens in all sorts of occasions, like with our bank lenders, our bosses, with politicians, with reporters, with teachers, and scientists and channelers, healers. It happens whenever someone tells you something that isn't what you prefer, and you believe them, or you acquiesce to their version of reality, or what's going to be reality. You've abdicated your creative power. But you know what? It isn't just people that we do that with sometimes. Sometimes we give up our power to history, or to quote unquote facts, or to reports like bank statements, or scales, or statistics, or laws. There are all sorts of occasions when we might give up on the idea of what we want because someone or something told us that it wasn't going to be that way. Look, and sometimes they're telling us fabulous things. And when that happens, by all means, leverage it. But when it isn't what you want, don't give up your power. Here's what I want us all to remember. And I say us because it happens to me too. You are the sole authority over what you create in your world. No one is more powerful than you are. No one can dictate what is or isn't possible for you. You get to create whatever you want. Don't let anyone limit you, anyone or anything. They get to create their version of it, right? You don't have to make them agree with your version or what you want. It's fine to let them have it their way in their world, because guess what? We don't all have to agree. We each are in charge of our own. So don't turn yours over. Don't give up on what you want because someone said it wasn't possible. They don't know what you're capable of. They have no idea who you are. You get to have your reality be whatever you want it to be. So when you hear someone tell you something that doesn't land well with you, like if I were to draw from my past, I remember when the tarot card reader told me that I was going to stay married, and it wasn't until that moment that I realized I didn't want to be married. This was before I was LOA savvy, I will add. But she was my aunt's, like, oh, my aunt was a big fan. She was a gifted astrologer, gifted tarot card reader. And she told me, she's flipping over all these cards and she's like, whoa, marriage getting tested. Whoa, she sees a brunette in there. I was not brunette at the time. Like, she's telling me all the things, just shaking your marriage to the core. It was all over my head. I was just oblivious to all of it. And then she said, yes, this is going to shake your marriage to its very foundation. And she flipped over another card, but your marriage will survive. And when she said that, I felt sick in my stomach. And I didn't know before then that I didn't want to be married anymore. She told me I was going to stay married. Or this happened more recently when, it was a couple years ago, but the mortgage lender, he said I would never qualify for a loan without getting my equity out of the house that I had with my ex. And that wasn't my preferred timing on things. I had a process in place that was such that I needed to be able to buy this without tapping the equity in the current house. He said, yeah, it's not going to happen. Because you still owe, he had reasons. He had reasons that sounded legit, that sounded real. But I know better. No one's telling me how it's going to be. I remember when I was young and my aunts were telling me what it was going to be like to get older. Or when I was believing, my LOA coach, Gina Gabellini, she shook me out of this one when I was like, but I can only have 2 cats. I live in the city. The ordinance says you can only have 2. Yeah, I used to honor that. Or remember when I went to coach training and they taught us that most of us are likely to fail. Very few of us will be successful. And even if we were successful, most of us aren't likely to make more than 30 grand a year. I believed them, and I was LOA savvy at the time. I believed the experts. Oh my good Lord. Or when the professional landscaper comes over and says, that tree or that plant's never going to come back. Or when the vet says there's nothing that can be done. Look, it happens in all sorts of ways. I just want to be on the record to remind us all that we remember who's in charge. You are. Unless you want to hand the reins over to someone else. And if they're going to do a good job driving, then let it be easy. Sure, put someone in charge, believe someone, listen to them, focus on them. When they're giving you reasons to believe in what you want, if they're suggesting something fabulous, by all means, pay attention. Because that's where your power is. It's in your attention. But if they're not suggesting something that you like the sounds of, tune them out. Don't let them entrain you into their version of reality. You get to create your own version of reality where it can be however you like it to be. That's what we came here for. All you have to do is be willing to stay in charge of what you're focusing on. In fact, I was thinking about when I heard this from Bashar, this was a couple years ago, there was a guy asking Bashar's channeled by Daryl Anka, something about, I think he was asking about the Illuminati or something, saying like, are they really, it was really fear-based. And this guy really just wanted Bashar to tell him the real truth about what was going on in the power structures behind the scenes of the world. And Bashar asked him, the guy asked a straight up question, is this what's happening or where are they taking us? And Bashar said, in which earth? And the guy was like, in this one. Bashar was like, well, there's not just one earth. There's all the earths. There's all the possibilities. Which one do you want? And the guy really just wanted a straight answer, which he didn't feel like he was getting from Bashar. And Bashar's like, look, is this what you want? And the guy's obviously, well, no, obviously it's not what I want. And Bashar's like, then stop focusing on that because you're creating it via your focus. You're empowering it by paying attention. If you don't want it, stop talking about it. I think that was the video. That's why I was trying to look it up where Bashar said, this channel will no longer entertain. I'm getting emotional talking about this. When he said, this channel will no longer entertain negative or fear-based versions of reality. Loved that. Anyway, I was trying to track that clip down. And in the process, I found a different one where Bashar was answering someone's question about chemtrails. And in it, he talked about conspiracy theories in general and how conspiracy theorists, when they're trying to blow the whistle on like abusive power setups that they don't like, that none of us would appreciate, what they're actually doing inadvertently, he called it a joke, but the joke is that as they're directing everyone's attention to this thing, these people that had no power until we all started believing that they did, till we all started thinking that they did. And that's what actually empowers them. So these whistleblowers creating the very things that they don't want. It's so important for us to remember that our power is in our attention. In fact, in that video clip, Bashar asked the guy, he says, do you wish to remain in the negative world? And the guy says, well, no. And then Bashar says, then we will not reinforce it. They're not even going to talk about it. Although he did give him an answer about the chemtrails, but not all the answers. Not all of them. It's kind of interesting. So look, our opportunity here is don't give them the power. And in fact, what Bashar said, when you don't give them that power, you'll shift your vibration to a parallel reality where it or they don't even exist. That's how you change the world, by changing yourself and your vibration, because there isn't just one world. There's all the worlds. I really like that reminder. It's as simple as, do you want it? Then focus on it. And if you don't want it, don't focus on it. It's not a matter of whether it's true or not. It's a matter of whether you prefer it or not. Abraham says this to us all the time, that the truth of it isn't a good enough reason to focus on it. If you don't want it, don't put your attention on it. Because we can make anything true that we focus on long enough, and just because someone else did doesn't mean we necessarily want to join them in that version of it. So don't let someone else get you to join in focusing into being something that you don't want to be a part of. You can choose otherwise. Plenty of people already are choosing otherwise. So whoever it might seem like knows more than you do, guess what? They don't. They don't know better than you. They aren't more well-informed or experienced or well-connected. Well, maybe they are those things, but guess what? They're not more powerful than you are. You're in charge of what you create, so use that power judiciously. Don't turn it over just because they have a strong opinion about it or they have facts that they can quote that seem really believable. I've got a sticky note reminder on my computer. In fact, I just wrote about this in my last newsletter. This sticky note, I don't remember where I got it from. I really feel like I was reading a book and someone said this. I don't think I came up with it myself. I don't know who to credit for it though, but it said, or the version I put on my computer says, I have sole ownership of my vision. That helps me remember that no one else gets to weigh in on what I'm creating. It also reminds me of how Conor McGregor, there's some Netflix documentary, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically about him, the fighter guy. And there's a scene near the end where he talks about how his mind is bulletproof. He's a really, really outspoken and powerful conscious creator. Kind of cool to study. Even if you don't really appreciate how he's using his power, the way he goes about it and the way he's vocal about it, I like it. Anyway, I have sole ownership of my vision. Kind of reminds me of Conor McGregor's statement that his mind is bulletproof. No one's getting into his head. He's in charge of what's happening in there. It helps me remember not to let my gremlins or the authorities or my loved ones hijack my vision. I'm the one calling the shots about what I'm visioning into being. And when I run into something that is not what I prefer, I just remind myself that they get to have it their way, I get to have it mine. We all get to be right. It's fine that we see it differently. But that's exactly what I'm going to keep doing, seeing it differently, or at least seeing it how I prefer it, to the best of my ability. And I'm not perfect at this, but you know how it goes, right? I'm getting better at it every day. You probably are too, right? I mean, after listening to this episode, you know better than to listen to me. But if that sounds good to you, let's all be the very best there is and all be getting better at it every day. I like the sounds of that. I hope you do too. All right, so as I wrap this up, hey, how about a shout out to JK1176, who left a 5-star review saying, I love listening to Jeanette's podcasts, and somehow the topic is exactly what I need to hear. Amazing. I put the emphasis on that amazing. Amazing. I like the thought. That's how JK1176 meant it. Amazing. She definitely helps me get in the LOA jet stream. Yay. Thank you for that 5-star review, JK1176. That's music to my ears. Thanks for listening, everyone. Big love to you all, and happy manifesting.